architect was humiliated at a firm. The next day, he returned as the billionaire. Marcus Rivera's hands trembled as Victoria Ashford's laughter echoed through the marble lobby of Harrington and Associates. Security, we have a homeless man pretending to be an architect. Her voice cut through the air like glass shattering. Every head in the waiting room turned toward him. His paint-stained work boots felt like anchors on the polished floor. Before we continue with this jaw-dropping story of judgment and redemption, smash that like button right now, subscribe to Broken Empire, and hit that notification bell so you never miss stories like this. Drop a comment telling us if you've ever been judged by your appearance. Now, let's dive into what happened next, because Marcus's response will shock you. Victoria circled Marcus like a predator sizing up wounded prey. Her designer heels clicked against the marble, each step deliberate, calculated. "Let me guess," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You picked up some blueprints at a construction site and thought you'd waltz in here?" Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "I'm here to present a proposal for the Riverside Community Center project. I have an appointment." "An appointment?" Victoria threw her head back, her laughter cruel and sharp. "With whom exactly?" "The janitorial staff." Other clients joined her amusement, their whispers spreading like wildfire. A woman in a pearl necklace clutched her purse tighter. A man in a three-piece suit smirked behind his phone. Marcus opened his worn leather portfolio, his grandmother's portfolio, the one she carried for 30 years as a contractor before arthritis claimed her hands. "I spoke with Mr. Harrington's office last week. They requested professionals," Victoria interrupted, snatching the portfolio from his hands. She held it between two fingers like contaminated evidence. "Not construction workers playing dress-up." She flipped it open, her eyes scanning his carefully prepared sketches with theatrical disgust. "Community college drawings? How adorable." The security guard approached, hand resting on his radio. Marcus felt his chest tighten, that familiar burn of humiliation he'd sworn he'd never feel again after clawing his way through MIT while working construction sites. After winning international competitions. After everything. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," the guard said, not unkindly but firmly. "I'm an architect," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just came from site inspection. I have credentials, I have." "You have nothing we want," Victoria said, tossing his portfolio onto a side table like trash. "The service entrance is around back. Use it next time you're looking for work." She turned to the receptionist. "Call Mr. Harrington and tell him his 2 p.m. is a no-show." Apparently, our architect got lost. Marcus felt every eye on him as he gathered his portfolio. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind. "Mijo, they can take your dignity only if you give it to them." But God, it hurt. It burned like fire in his chest. Then a soft voice cut through the tension. "Mr. Rivera?" An elderly Asian woman stood near the elevators, her face lined with years, but her eyes sharp and knowing. "I'm Eleanor Chun, junior associate. I believe we spoke on the phone." Victoria spun around, her face flushing. "Eleanor, this man is not." "Not what?" Eleanor's voice was quiet but steel-edged. "Not dressed how you think architects should dress." Marcus Rivera graduated top of his class from MIT. He's won the Bronson Sustainability Award twice. His firm designed the Greenway Towers in Seattle. She looked at Marcus with something like recognition, like she saw herself in him. "I know exactly who he is." The lobby fell silent. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Marcus felt something crack in his chest, but not from pain this time. Eleanor handed him her business card. "Come back tomorrow, Mr. Rivera, 10 a.m. sharp. All the partners will be present." She glanced at Victoria with barely concealed disappointment. "All the partners who matter, anyway." Marcus took the card, his hand steadier now. He looked at Victoria one last time, memorizing her face, her smirk, her certainty that she knew his worth. "I'll be here," he said quietly. "And tomorrow, Ms. Ashford, you'll understand the difference between appearance and reality." He walked out with his head high, but his heart was pounding. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, he had calls to make. What Victoria didn't know was that the worn boots she mocked had walked through construction sites of buildings worth hundreds of millions. What she couldn't see was the foundation Marcus had built, brick by brick, from nothing. But she was about to learn. Oh, she was about to learn everything. The morning sun blazed through Marcus's apartment windows as he buttoned his charcoal Tom Ford suit, the one he saved for contract signings and award ceremonies. His reflection stared back at him, transformed but the same. Same brown eyes that had watched his grandmother mix concrete. Same hands that had carried steel beams before they drafted blueprints. But today, those hands would sign something that would make Victoria Ashford's world crumble. His phone buzzed. Marcus, the partners are assembled, his assistant Sophia confirmed. Mr. Harrington is nervous. Word got out about yesterday's incident. Good, Marcus said, his voice cold. They should be. At exactly 10 a.m., Marcus walked through those same glass doors. The receptionist nearly dropped her coffee. Mr. Rivera, I'm so sorry about yesterday. I didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't ask, Marcus said, not unkindly, just truthfully. Where's the conference room? The executive suite was all mahogany and leather, with Chicago's skyline stretching beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. James Harrington stood immediately, hand extended, his silver hair impeccable, but his eyes anxious. Mr. Rivera, please accept my sincerest apologies for yesterday's inexcusable behavior. Victoria sat frozen in her chair, her face ashen. The confident woman from yesterday had vanished, replaced by someone who looked like she might be sick. Ms. Ashford, Marcus said, turning to her directly. Stand up. She rose slowly, her hand shaking. Yesterday, you judged me by my clothes. You measured my worth by my appearance. You assumed that because I came from a construction site, I couldn't possibly be someone worth your time. Marcus's voice was calm, but every word landed like a hammer. Tell me, what did you see when you looked at me? Victoria's voice cracked. I made a terrible mistake. I'm so deeply sorry. I was protecting the firm's interests. I didn't mean. You didn't mean to show me exactly who you are? Marcus interrupted. You didn't mean to reveal that your judgment is based on surfaces, not substance? In architecture, Ms. Ashford, we learn that foundations are invisible. They're underground, unseen, but they hold everything up. You never looked for my foundation. You saw boots and assumed emptiness. James Harrington cleared his throat. Mr. Rivera, Victoria will face consequences, I assure you. Now about the Riverside Project. The Riverside Project is a $30 million community center, Marcus said, opening his portfolio. But that's not why I'm here. Not anymore. He pulled out a different folder, navy blue and embossed with gold. I'm here to discuss the Rivera Foundation's Urban Renewal Initiative. $120 million over 5 years. 12 buildings. Affordable housing, community centers, green spaces in underserved neighborhoods. The room went silent. You could hear the ventilation system humming. We need an architecture partner, Marcus continued. Someone who shares our values. Someone who understands that the people we build for matter more than the buildings themselves. He looked at Victoria. Yesterday, I came here because your firm was my first choice. Eleanor's work on the Brookside development showed compassion and innovation. I wanted to work with people who saw beyond blueprints to the lives they'd impact. Victoria's tears started silently, streaming down her face, smudging her perfect makeup. But now I question if this firm's values align with mine, Marcus said. So here's what's going to happen. Eleanor Chun will lead this project. She'll be promoted to senior associate, effective immediately. Victoria, you'll be reassigned. He paused. Not fired. Reassigned to our community outreach team, where you'll work directly with the families who will live in these buildings. You'll hear their stories. You'll learn their names. You'll understand that worth isn't measured in designer labels. James Harrington was nodding rapidly. Absolutely, yes, whatever you need. I'm not finished, Marcus said. There's one more thing. He pulled out another document. My foundation is purchasing this building. We're converting the upper 12 floors into subsidized housing for young architects, artists, and educators. People starting out, people who look like I did yesterday. Ground floor stays commercial, but will offer reduced rent to minority-owned firms. Victoria Gast. James Harrington's eyes widened. This building will represent what I believe, Marcus said quietly. That architecture should serve everyone. That dignity isn't earned by wealth or status. It's inherent, and that second chances matter. He looked at Victoria again. You can learn from this, or you can let it destroy you. I'm offering you growth, Ms. Ashford. What you do with it is your choice. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Victoria spoke, her voice broken. Why? Why would you give me a second chance after what I did? Marcus's expression softened slightly. Because someone gave me one once. Because my grandmother taught me that we build bridges, not walls. And because I believe people can change when they see clearly. He stood. The contracts are ready for review. Eleanor, you have my number. Let's build something meaningful. As Marcus walked out, he passed Eleanor in the hallway. She was crying, smiling, shaking her head in disbelief. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing me first, Marcus replied. But the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. Because what happened 6 months later would prove that redemption is real, that change is possible, and that the foundations we build in people matter more than the foundations we pour in concrete. 6 months later, the Riverside Community Center construction site hummed with life. Marcus stood in his work boots again, hard hat tilted back, reviewing structural plans with a diverse team of young architects. The morning air smelled of fresh concrete and coffee from the food truck parked on site. Mr. Rivera, the load-bearing calculation for the second floor are ready, said James Park, a recent graduate from Howard University. His hand was steady on the blueprints, confident in a way that only comes from being truly seen and valued. Marcus, he corrected gently. Just Marcus on site. Save the formalities for client meetings. He studied the plans, nodding approvingly. Beautiful work, James. Your professor was right to recommend you. A familiar voice called out from behind scaffolding. Marcus, the community liaison team is here for the walkthrough. Eleanor Chan emerged, transformed over 6 months from a quietly overlooked junior associate to a force of nature in sustainable urban design. Her hard hat sported stickers from 3 different community organizations. Behind her walked a group of 15 residents from the surrounding neighborhood, their faces lit with curiosity and hope. But it was the person trailing at the back of the group that made Marcus pause. Victoria Ashford, in sensible shoes and a practical jacket, carried a notebook filled with handwritten notes and sketches. Her designer armor was gone, replaced by something more authentic, something earned. Everyone, gather around, Eleanor called out, her voice carrying across the construction site. Mr. Rivera is going to walk us through what this building means for our neighborhood. Marcus climbed onto a stack of lumber, addressing the crowd. 6 months ago, this was an empty lot where kids played in broken glass and discarded needles. Today, it's becoming something else. A place where those same kids will have after-school programs, where their parents can take adult education classes, where seniors can gather for meals and community. A woman in the front raised her hand. Mr. Rivera, I'm Sandra Coleman. My daughter Maya is 10. Will there really be art studios here? Not just art studios, Ms. Coleman, Marcus said warmly. Recording booths for young musicians. A makerspace with 3D printers. A commercial kitchen where your neighbors can start food businesses. He pointed to the eastern wing. That section, that's specifically designed based on feedback from 200 community surveys. You told us what you needed. We listened. An elderly man called out, his voice thick with emotion. Son, I've lived in this neighborhood for 47 years. I've watched politicians promise us everything and deliver nothing. Why should we believe this time is different? Marcus climbed down from the lumber, walking directly to the man. What's your name, sir? Robert Washington. Mr. Washington, I grew up in a neighborhood like this. My grandmother raised me in a 1-bedroom apartment where the heat barely worked and the roof leaked every spring. I remember promises too. I remember politicians taking photos and never coming back. Marcus's voice was thick with memory. This is different because I'm not a politician. I'm someone who remembers. Someone who hasn't forgotten. And this building has my name on it, literally. The Rivera Foundation. My reputation, my grandmother's legacy, my word. That's what's different. Robert Washington's eyes glistened. He extended his hand, and Marcus shook it firmly. Victoria stepped forward hesitantly. Mr. Washington, I'm Victoria. I'm part of the community liaison team. I'd love to get your thoughts on the senior center programming. We're planning activities, and your input would be invaluable. Marcus watched her interact with Robert, taking notes, actually listening, and he felt something shift. Redemption was real. Change was possible. Marcus, Sophia, his assistant, jogged over with her tablet. Channel 7 News just called. They want to do a segment on the project. And she paused, grinning. The mayor's office called. They want to discuss expanding the Rivera Foundation initiative citywide. Eleanor overheard and squeezed Marcus's arm. You're changing the whole city. We're changing it. Marcus corrected. This isn't my project. It's ours. Every person here, every family waiting for this building to open, every architect who believed in the vision. We're doing this together. As the community walkthrough continued, Victoria approached Marcus privately. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but clear. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. 6 months ago, I was the worst version of myself. I measure people by their clothes, their cars, their college names. I was drowning in debt, trying to maintain an image of success while feeling empty inside. Marcus waited, letting her speak. Working with these families, hearing their stories, learning their dreams. I've learned more about architecture in 6 months than I did in 6 years at the firm. Her voice cracked. You could have destroyed my career. Instead, you rebuilt me. Why? Marcus thought of his grandmother, of her calloused hands and infinite wisdom. Because buildings aren't the only things that need strong foundations, Victoria. People do too. And sometimes, those foundations have to be rebuilt from the ground up. You're doing the work. That's what matters. I want to apologize to you properly, Victoria said. Not as a legal formality or to save my job, but as a human being to another human being. I was cruel. I was blind. I am sorry. Marcus nodded slowly. I accept your apology. And I forgive you, Victoria. Not because you've earned it, but because we all need grace sometimes. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the construction site, Marcus surveyed everything they'd built. Not just the steel and concrete rising from the earth, but the relationships, the trust, the community forming around shared vision. His phone buzzed with a text from James Harrington. City Planning Commission approved all 12 sites. The mayor wants a press conference next week. Marcus, you're changing everything. But Marcus knew the real change wasn't in buildings or press conferences. It was in Victoria's transformation from judgment to compassion. In Eleanor's rise from overlooked to essential. In young architects like James Park seeing someone who looked like them leading major projects. In Mr. Washington's tears and Ms. Coleman's hope. The foundation he was building went deeper than concrete. It was made of second chances, dignity restored, and the revolutionary idea that everyone deserves to be seen. Still, there was one more piece to complete. One more person who needed to see what he'd built. And tomorrow, she'd finally see it. The grand opening ceremony for Riverside Community Center arrived on a perfect October morning. The sky impossibly blue and the air crisp with autumn promise. 500 folding chairs formed neat rows before the building's entrance, and every single one was filled. News cameras lined the back. The mayor stood ready to speak. But Marcus only had eyes for one person. In the front row, in a wheelchair decorated with colorful streamers by neighborhood children, sat his grandmother, Maria Rivera. Her hands, twisted by arthritis, rested in her lap. Her eyes, bright and sharp, took in everything. This was her first time seeing the building. Marcus had insisted on waiting, on making sure it was perfect before she witnessed what her sacrifices had built. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor began, we're here to celebrate not just a building, but a vision of what our city can become when we invest in all our neighborhoods, not just the wealthy ones. Marcus barely heard the speech. He was watching his grandmother's face as she studied the building's lines, the wide accessible entrance, The community garden already blooming on the west side, the solar panels glinting on the roof. He saw her lips move, counting the windows, assessing the structural integrity out of decades of habit. Eleanor leaned over and whispered, "She's doing a quality inspection, isn't she?" Marcus smiled. "She can't help it. It's in her blood." When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he approached the microphone with his grandmother's worn leather portfolio under his arm, the same one Victoria had thrown aside 6 months ago. "Thank you, Mayor Chun, city council members, and most importantly, thank you to the community that made this possible." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "But before I talk about this building, I need to tell you about another one. About a woman who mixed concrete in the summer heat while 7 months pregnant because she needed the work. About a contractor who taught her grandson that every brick matters, that every foundation must be true, and that the people we build for are never just clients. Their families, their dreams, their futures." He gestured to his grandmother. "Maria Rivera taught me everything I know about building, not from textbooks, but from her hands. Her scarred, beautiful hands that built half the houses in our old neighborhood. She couldn't afford MIT for herself, but she made sure I could go. She wore the same work boots for 15 years, so I could have new ones. Every building I design, every project I complete, is built on her foundation." Tears streamed down faces in the audience. Even the mayor wiped his eyes. 6 months ago, I walked into a prestigious architecture firm wearing work clothes. I was judged. I was dismissed. I was told I didn't belong. Marcus's voice strengthened. And you know what? They were right. I didn't belong in a place that values appearance over substance. I belonged here, with you, building something that actually matters. He looked directly at Victoria, who sat in the third row beside Eleanor. But that moment of judgment became something else. It became an opportunity for growth, for change, for all of us to examine what we value and why. He smiled slightly. That day, I met Eleanor Chun, who saw past my clothes to my credentials, who reminded me that kindness exists even in hostile places. And I met Victoria Ashford, who learned that you can rebuild yourself just like you rebuild a structure, from a foundation up. Victoria stood, her voice clear. "Mr. Rivera asked me to say something today. 6 months ago, I was the worst kind of architect. I built walls instead of bridges. I measured worth in all the wrong ways. This community taught me that real value isn't in designer labels or prestigious firms. It's in a 10-year-old girl who'll learn to paint in our art studio. It's in a senior citizen who'll have warm meals and fellowship in our community space. It's in second chances." Her voice broke. "Thank you for giving me one." The audience erupted in applause, and Marcus saw his grandmother clapping with her twisted hands, tears running freely down her weathered face. After the ceremony, Marcus wheeled his grandmother through every floor of the building. She examined the structural beams, ran her fingers along the walls, tested the door frames. In the art studio, she paused before a wall where hundreds of children's handprints made a colorful mural. "Mijo," she said in Spanish, her voice papery with age, "you did it. You built the bridge. We built it, abuela. You built it. I just followed your blueprint." She shook her head slowly. "No, you went further than I ever could. You built buildings, yes, but you also built people. That girl, Victoria, you rebuilt her. That's architecture I never learned. That's your gift." As the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in oranges and purples, Marcus stood on the roof of Riverside Community Center with Eleanor and Victoria. Below, children played in the new playground. Seniors gathered in the community garden. Teenagers explored the recording studio. The city approved all 12 sites, Eleanor said, pulling up plans on her tablet. "We're looking at 5 years of continuous construction. Marcus, we're going to transform entire neighborhoods." Victoria added quietly, "And I want to be part of it, if you'll have me. Not as the person I was, but as the person I'm becoming." Marcus looked at both women. These architects of change in their own ways. "We're not building buildings," he said finally. "We're building possibilities. We're building dignity. We're building proof that where you come from doesn't determine where you go. That's what my grandmother taught me. That's what this is all about." His phone buzzed. A text from James Harrington. You changed our firm. You changed our city. You changed me. Thank you. But Marcus knew the real change was deeper. It was in the children painting in the art studio, in the seniors sharing meals, in the young architects seeing someone who looked like them leading revolutionary projects, in Victoria's transformation from judgment to grace, in Eleanor's rise from overlooked to essential. The foundation he'd built wasn't just concrete and steel. It was made of second chances, dignity restored, and the radical idea that everyone deserves to be seen, valued, and given opportunity to grow. As they descended from the roof, Marcus paused at a window overlooking the street where he'd grown up just 3 blocks away. The same street where his grandmother had mixed concrete and dreamed of better days. Where she told him, "Mijo, build bridges, not walls." Between materials, yes, but more importantly, between people. He'd built those bridges. And tomorrow, he'd build more. So what do you think? Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Have you ever made assumptions about someone and been completely wrong? Drop your stories in the comments below. And if this story touched you, hit that like button, subscribe to Broken Empire for more incredible true stories of redemption and triumph, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Would you have shown the same grace? Let us know. Until next time, remember, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Choose kindness. Choose dignity. Choose to see the foundation beneath the surface. Peace.